Okay, so today we're covering building a garage. Well, we're not covering building a garage. We're covering part of building a garage, which is doing the wall plates. So the way I'm doing it, there's different ways to do it. Most of the time, when I build on concrete, if I was to be building with a crew, there would be J-bolts in the concrete. The J-bolt is the one that's kind of shaped like this. They're 10 inches long by half inch, threaded at the top. When the concrete's being poured, they're set in there. You leave them up a couple inches, and then this is the standard way most of the time it's done when building on concrete slabs. But the reason I didn't do it that way is because I'm doing this by myself, and then I'm completely sheeting the walls, putting the house wrap on, and standing the walls up. So they're going to be heavy and unwieldy. I've got house jacks to do that, but to try to get those up on top of the bolts so that the plate goes down on, you would pre-drill the bottom plate where the holes, where the bolts are, and then, but the problem is that these bolts are sticking up a couple inches to get the wall up on top, and then it's unsafe and hard to control. I mean, if you got like 3 guys, you're not sheeting the walls. It's not a problem to lift it up and set it on top of the bolts. So anyway, so what I've done is I've used these wedge, they're called wedge anchors, or I think wedge walls. These are made by Simpson. I think there's other companies that make them. These are 5/8 by 5 inch. They work the best. So what I do is like here I have a doorway that's going to be here, the small door for entering the garage from the back. The garage door, the overhead door, is going to be here in the front. So I needed to know where that's going to be, so I laid that out first before I figured out where I'm going to put my bolts. So, and the same thing would be true also when you're building a house and you're using J-bolts, or your concrete guys are, they need to know where the doorways are, because you don't want to be setting bolts where doorways are, because they just have to be cut off and taken out. So anyway, okay, so all that aside, so I figured out where my door is going to be, and then I pre-drilled the green plate, or the pressure treated plate. I pre-drilled it with a 5/8 wood bit, because drilling through, you have to use a hammer drill and a concrete bit. It doesn't drill through wood very well. I mean, you can squeeze it through, you can force it through, but it's better as pre-drill. So I figured out where they're going to be. I pre-drilled the plate. I have already snapped my lines, so those have already all been snapped, so that the inside edge here will follow the lines. And then what you do is you take the anchor bolt, you put it in. Now you have the hole drilled in here, and then you've drilled now. You've put your plate in place, and you've drilled through with your concrete bit. Okay, so you pre-drilled with your wood bit. You put the plate in place where it's supposed to be. I usually stand on it so it doesn't move around. I drill down deep enough so that this whole thing can go in. Like I said, it's 5 inches long. They do come in different lengths. I think they can even get 7 or 8 inch, but I think 5 inches is enough. Anyway, so you drill down, you drill your concrete out, and then what you do is you take these, you put it in, and what I do is I take the nut and I have it up. It's just so the top of the nut is a little bit higher than the end of the bolt, and then I hit it with a hammer and pound it down in, and the washer is on it, right? So when you're pounding this down, the reason I leave this up a little higher is I want maximum penetration, because what's going to happen is after you get it whacked down all the way, you're going to tighten it, and it's still, the nut's going to want to go down a little bit. So to get maximum penetration, I leave it up a little higher than this, and then I pound it down until I whack it pretty hard so that it buries the washer into the wood. So when you go to tighten it, it's already squeezed the washer. The washer's already pre-squeezed down. And then, so this is all the way down. This washer is now smashed into the face of the 2x4 a bit. And then I take a wrench and I tighten it. And when you go tighten it, these things are made to go one way. They don't come back up. So that way, you'll tighten it a few turns. It'll always tighten a little more than you can whack it down. And then this is about even. So you've got your maximum penetration. So if you're leaving this up about 2 inches from the top of the 2x4, you know, you're in the concrete, you know, maybe a couple of 3 inches, you know, which should be enough. I mean, if you're in a seismic area, it's a whole different deal. I mean, we don't have seismic issues here. We don't even really have tornadoes in this part of Texas, so it's not really much of an issue anyway. But if you're in a seismic area, you're gonna have to do, you know, whatever's required. There's no codes here. There's no. It's not that there's no codes. There's no inspections. There's no building inspection and all that. If you want to get inspected, you can hire a private one. Some subdivisions require it, but basically you're on your own. But you'd want to do stuff to follow code. So anyway, yeah. So I put them, you know, basically around 4 feet apart, and then I put. One here close to the splice, because these are 16 footers. This is a 20 foot wide by 20 foot garage. So there's a splice, and then I could have put one on either side. I don't think it's necessary, because now what I've done is this thing gets secured down, and then I put my bottom non-treated plate will sit on top of this. And so what I did for that is once this green plate is down and secured, you have to do them one at a time. I mean, I can't do the other ones because they'll be in the way when I go to build this wall on the floor. I need a flat surface. So I'll do this wall first. This is a rake wall, so it'll include the peak and everything. Then I'll do the front wall, which is a rake wall, and then I'll do the side walls. So I can't do these side walls until this wall is up, because these plates would be in the way of building the wall flat on the floor. So anyway, so now you have to drill out here. I use an 1.5 inch spade bit to get around this, and I just go like halfway through, you know, enough that this plate will sit on top of here. So what I do is I after I get these plates cut so that they're 20 feet, so I've got a 16 and then a 4 foot piece at the end, I put that on top of here, lined up the way it's going to sit, and then where each bolt is, I hit the top of this with a hammer, you know, hard enough that the bolt will leave a small indentation in the bottom, so when you take this off and flip it over, you know where to drill. So you take this 2x4, it's 16 feet long, whatever, you set it on top, you line up the edges, and then you hold it, and then you whack it where each bolt is. You just give it a couple of good whacks with the hammer. That'll leave an indentation in the bottom. When you flip it over, you'll say, oh, there's the indentation. You center your drill bit, and you drill there. Of course, I'm drilling bigger than this is, so you have room to a little bit of play. And then, of course, once I stand the wall up, this will get nailed down in here, and the sheeting will tie all this together. So this doesn't matter that it's only nailed to here and that this is bolted. Your sheeting is going to be nailed into this, so that's going to hold your wall onto this bottom plate, because you're putting nails, you know, every 4 to 6 inches along the bottom. And then as far as like the way I do my layouts is, if I've got doors and windows on a wall, I lay those out first before I do my 16-inch center layout, and I covered that in another video when I was framing the walls for the house. So this is the same thing. So so here's a doorway. So I've got a wall here. I measure over, and I like my doorway close to the wall, so when you open it, it's not really wasting any space behind the door. So T for me is trimmer. That's the one that holds the header. It doesn't go all the way up. And then I just put a slash. Some people like to do an X, but it's like, why do 2 motions? You can just do one. Slash for the full length studs. And then the cripple studs, the ones that are above the header, or below the sill if you're using a window, so you have that above the header and below the sill. I just put a C for cripple, so on a frame, and I don't put a full stud there, but by accident. I use 3 foot wide doors in the garage. So your door openings need to be 2 inches wider. So if it's a 3 foot door, I framed 3 foot 2 inches wide. That gives you a couple inches of play to shim the door when it goes time to hang the door. So anyway, yeah. So I've got trim and then slash, and I just do that all the way down, and then I do my 16-inch centers, and then I take my so I do it on one. I turn them on edge like this. I make my marks on one, just a pencil mark. Right, and then I come back and I do like this. I draw the pencil across and put my slashes like that. It's faster and easier, because you're going to be framing the wall with the lumber in this position. So there's no reason to put the the mark here on this face. This is harder to see when you're putting the wall together, so just either put on the edge. As far as whether the 2x4 is turned a little, you just kind of do it by eye. It doesn't make any difference if it doesn't go perfectly perpendicular. I mean, if it's twisted, it doesn't matter. Anyway, so that's kind of how I do that. And I'm gonna just do one wall at a time. So I'll be doing this wall, and then that wall, and then one side wall, and the other side wall. Okay, that kind of covers that. Back to work.